Hubert's Hair-Raising Adventure, written and illustrated by Bill Peet, narrated by Sarah Chestnut. Here's the cover of the book, and as you can see, all of the animals are in a bit of a tangle, so maybe you can guess what this book is about. The speaking objective is the learner will recognize high-frequency English words associated with illustrations to identify and describe the characters in the story. The writing objective is the learner will describe and explain the characters from the story in writing using a word bubble. To begin, we're going to go over some of the main characters in the story. We have Hubert the lion, who is haughty and vain and elegant and full of conceit. We have the elephant, who is described as being old and wrinkled, and who also ends up being Hubert's true friend in the story. The crocodile, who is creepy and crafty and not such a good friend. The barber baboon from Old Monkey Hill, who, although he's not so great with his old scissors squeaking and snipping, does end up helping. And we have Mrs. Bird, who is the neighborhood gossip with nothing to do. Now we're going to go over some of the other characters in the story. Some of Hubert's other friends are the leopard, the gawky giraffe, and the rhino. And we have the zebra, the skinny old gnu, and the hyena with spots and a snickering laugh. Now we're going to discuss the setting, which is where we see the characters throughout the story. Hubert's story takes place on the continent of Africa. I want you to notice throughout the story how the author mentions the words to the right. Hot, jungle, Zambezi Creek, Savannah is not mentioned, but the tree in the picture is indicative of a savanna in Africa. And the author also mentions lakes and swamps. Now we're going to go over the plot, which is the summary or the main idea of the story. There are three main ideas or main points in the story. The first one is Hubert loses his mane through an unfortunate accident. Some of the vocabulary you'll see here are haughty, vain, ignited, and disgraced. The next part of the story are when Hubert's friends are trying to help him find a cure to grow back his mane. And some of the vocabulary you'll see here are consider, new, disgust, and dread. After his friends help him find a cure, his friend the elephant goes off by himself to collect the cure, which is to collect crocodile tears. Some of the vocabulary we'll see are lumbered, forged, dread, and mush. After Hubert applies the cure to his head, he and his friends decide to take a little nap while they're waiting for his mane to grow back. Only the hair grows and grows, and they end up waking up to a bit of a surprise. Some of the vocabulary I want you to focus on in this section are doubt, spiraled, bungle, and flourish. The conflict or conflicts in the story are parts of the story where you find characters with a bit of a problem. We have three conflicts throughout the story. The first one is that Hubert loses his mane and he feels really sad and depressed. Then when the elephant goes off to collect the cure, or crocodile tears, the crocodile is like, I'm not going to give you my tears. I never cry. And then once Hubert does have the cure, it works a little too well and everybody ends up in a tangle. The resolution or resolutions are solutions to the problems or the conflict throughout the story. So the first conflict was that Hubert loses his mane and he needs a cure. So his friend the elephant comes up with a plan to help Hubert and goes to collect the cure. Even though the crocodile won't cry tears when the elephant gets to the swamp, he ends up getting the crocodile to laugh tears by telling him the story of what happened to Hubert. In the very last part of the story, we see that Mrs. Bird ends up being quite useful in that she likes to tell everybody everything because she goes to get Barber Baboon, who then comes and is able to untangle everyone and trim down Hubert's hair. So let's think about some questions. First, let's look at some point of view questions. So who is the main character in the story? Where does the story take place? Can you name some words that describe the animals in the story? Now let's think about some questions that have to do with how the characters felt. How did Hubert feel after he lost his mane? How did the crocodile greet the elephant? Did the animals get frustrated waiting for Hubert's hair to grow back? Can you think of a time you felt sad, scared, or frustrated? Last questions. I just want your opinion. Who do you think was a good friend to Hubert? Why do you think the crocodile was not a good friend? Do you think the Barber Baboon was good at cutting hair? Now that we've wrapped up going over the story, I'd like to give credit to the author and illustrator Bill Peet, and also to myself, Sarah Chestnut, the narrator and your teacher. And this concludes the story. The end.